For Jadon Sancho only on paper because the club is now thinking about it. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Apparently, everything is basically done for Jadon Sancho, but now the club was like, you know what? Maybe his character could be an issue for this team. Komoli, the guy who said, I like to meet the family and etc., like Juntuli, but man, you agree terms to basically make it a done deal after weeks and weeks of positive talks, and now you want to think about it? That's what we're going to talk about. Strange report, but it's out there, so we're going to discuss it. Before we get into it, as always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, as always, and let's talk about it. So the Jadon Sancho one is an insane saga. Like, actually, it's becoming an insane saga because we were already in this situation last season when we were close and then it didn't happen. Now again, and we are not even close according to Giovanni Albanese. We agreed. Everything, it's done. It's basically done. But now the club is like, after weeks of talks, positive talks, a lot of meeting, agreeing this, agreeing that, now we just sit back and like, the character of Jadon Sancho, will that be an issue for the club? And this is not about will it be or will it not be an issue? Because I don't know Jadon Sancho. You need to go off media. And to be honest, Rabiot was painted as one of those players because of his agent, and we never heard a peep coming out of that. So the media is what it is. But the story makes no sense. At this point, you just really need to hope that Giovanni Albanese is poor at his job. And I don't want to say that basically. However, that would clear the air. That will make the club look better because this report reflects extremely poorly on Komoli because of the timing. If the reports we're not certain about his character, about Jadon Sancho's character, so we took a step back, or it's in the background, then you can like, you know what? Fine. That's the decision you made at a club. But when it's flipped and it's like we are in talks for about 2 weeks, positive meeting, positive this, agreeing with Manu, agreeing with Jadon Sancho, all done. And now you sit back and you tell Jadon Sancho, let's wait. Let's hold on for a second. We need to think if you're actually the guy. That is madness. That's extremely disrespectful towards the agents, towards the clubs, Manu, the player involved. That makes absolutely zero sense. Like absolutely zero sense. So at this stage, you just need to hope Giovanni Albanese is lying or has been fed misinformation. Otherwise, it reflects poorly on the club. I don't want to sit here and agree or say that Komoli is that incompetent because he cannot be. Like, it's his job. He's better than us, or should be better than us, especially in doing it. And that sounds very incompetent. You just need to hope the story is completely fake, because other reports from Giordano, who is a close to Napoli source, but he followed Jadon Sancho and he's been spot on at this moment in time from day one. So if you take that story, the Jadon Sancho story, from him, he said it's agreed. Everything is agreed with Manu, with Sancho, and now it's just Sancho asking Manu a fee to leave because of bonuses that were not paid and etc. Loan deals, etc. I do not come into, like, when I talk about money, I've said it. I gave Vlahovic kind of advice on money. I said you can get a long-term deal. Why would you sit out? You don't know what happens, with an injury, a long-term injury, and whatever, But if you get the money, it's your right to claim that money. It is what it is. If Vlahovic says we want that money, you get that money. If Sancho has right on certain bonuses, then he has right on those certain bonuses, or there were certain agreements in place, then you kind of need to accept that those agreements are there. But the story, the saga, is becoming a bit too much for what the player is. The player has not been performing at the level he should be performing for a couple of seasons, and all the things surrounding the deal, the talks and this and that, it's becoming way too much, where it's like, it's not really worth it. If you want him, close it. If you really want Sancho, close it. I don't want to hear, we're waiting on Conceição. You can, like, do you like Sancho or do you like Conceição? The price is almost the same. Pounds on one. You cannot like Jadon Sancho, but if the Conceição deal is a bit more cheaper than 30 million, we go for Conceição. You cannot build a squad like that, by the way. Do you like either? Do you like both the same? Then close one of them, because the price is basically the same. But you cannot go from 25 for Jadon Sancho. But if Conceição was 5 million cheaper, we go with Conceição. You cannot base it on the price tag. You need to base it on the player, the profile. Does he fit your team, etc. That should be the bar. That should be the minimum, or that should be how it should be working, in my opinion, and not the price tag should dictate to choose between one of the two, especially not if the price tag is almost the same. That it makes no real sense. It's like, okay, even if it's slightly more and whatever, pick the player you have the most faith in or you believe can improve this team. Do not let that decision be made because of a 5 million euro discount, because at that point we're doing weird business as a football club. The Jadon Sancho thing needs to be over. Are you going to sign him? Yes or no? Or are you going to move on to Conceição? Porto refuse us, whatever. Because the longer this drags on, the more opportunities there are for this deal to not happen. And some of you might agree, Jadon Sancho doesn't need to come. But it's just one example for the other things that happen. It's the second week of July. People say it's early. I don't think it's early. Especially when you have a new management, things need to move faster, better. We need so much work to be done. And we're not going to get that work done, all of them, because it's too much, and it's not realistic. But key areas need to be addressed. And we're sitting here with the Vlahovic situation, Kolomani up in the air, this up in the air, no defenders, the club actually believing that that backline is good enough, believing that Kostic is good enough. You know how insane that is. When you're watching teams like even Napoli, or other teams as well across Europe, you just sit back and like, this is going to be a long season if the club actually believes that backline is good enough and Kostic can do a job. I don't want to see any comments saying Kostic can do a job. Please, I know it's about opinions, but I don't want to see that. He cannot do a job. What does a job mean? When people say he can do a job means you need to still add something to the team. He doesn't add anything. I don't want to hear he runs, he works hard. I don't want to hear that. I want to talk quality. Can you change a game defensively or offensively? Whatever. Can you add something valuable, something that not many players have? And certain players just cannot do that. Klopp needs to accept that and make the easy decisions, which seem extremely hard right now. So going back to the Sancho story, done deal, but not done deal. Very, very odd situation. I'm not going to lie. I actually never really remember a situation like this where it's all agreed basically, but the club is like, we agreed right now, but let's think about it again. That makes really no sense at this moment in time. So you just need to assume the reports are wrong, or actually the club is thinking about the money and making their decision on 5 million euros saved, yes or no. And that for me is crazy. But here we are. Anyways, in the comments, let me know what you think. Do you think it's completely BS, and that cannot be true? Or do you think, Giovanni Albanese is onto something and that could be true? So let me know, and we will speak about it in the comments. Ciao.